Hello, team. Welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today. This is one of the games from the bracket round of the tournament. So the finals, the winner moves on to the next round. The loser gets knocked. It's such a blunt term. The loser of the match will be knocked down to the losers bracket. So they're not out of the tournament. Every player is allowed to lose once in the bracket stage, is what it comes down to. DT Assassin is in blue and AK Misk is in red, spawning in these locations on the map. This is actually the two players that I thought would be in the final, and they still could be. By the way the tournament works, there could be a rematch of this. So I'm very excited to watch this game. DT Assassin's immediately going for a town and a port for the fast economy, and an airport to follow up after it. And AK's got 3 barracks, a factory, and 2 industries. And as for what player's in a better position on the map, I think it's pretty even, really, when it comes down to it. Factory for DT Assassin, and 2 barracks in this choke. And AK adds a 3rd industry. We can check the economies in a second, because there shouldn't be a noticeable. I'm just going to do right now. Whatever. 403 for blue and 354 for red. But once the industry finishes, I believe it will get a little bit better for red. And both players will have that one factory. DT Assassin is now matching AK on how many barracks are on the field. And AK does, or yeah, pardon me, AK does have this gas, this refinery, that's very safe to take, putting a barracks down beside it. Whereas DT would have to take this refinery, is the first one. And really the only one that blue is going to have access to, for at least the early part of the game. And red is going for Sam's out of the airport immediately, which is a very smart call and will come in handy against these helicopters for blue, the second of which is about halfway done. And artillery for DT, followed by a Sam. AK is now going for an airport. Neither player will be able to see exactly what buildings are being put down by their opponent, but clearly know where the other one is at this point. And DT sends out the first helicopters. 456 income for red and 463 for blue, so we're about as even as you can ask for. And DT's getting a barracks with commandos is the play out of this northern one. Which these will do well to cut off if AK tries to go up this side of the map and really force AK to only go to the left-hand side, or at least make it a little bit more difficult for infantry to get out. That's my read on this situation. It's still just more helicopters for DT. And more SAMs for AK. And otherwise, we just continue to build up. There's 3 trade routes on the top left side of the map. Probably a little bit of a favorite for AK to set these up. But I mean, if DT caps all this, then it's very difficult to keep these trade routes actually delivering goods. And with the close spawn locations like this, the game might not even go that long. 4th industry now for AK, who puts another barracks down, and this will be going for commandos in the south. And red has the infantry advantage on this clash in the middle, but these 2 helicopters for blue are going to do great over time. And 523 income for blue, pardon me, 516 for red. Both players are still investing a lot to expansion. So it's not like either player's just jamming all their production at destroying their opponent. Helicopters now for AK, so both players just going helicopters. The SAM counts are equal. And I mean, in general, it's felt like the builds have almost mirrored each other. If we're calling them builds in Line War. Refinery now on the very, or pardon me, power plant for blue. The very edge of the map. In a great location, really. Surrounded by this forest. It's also not in a forest, so it wouldn't take that 50% build penalty hit. And progress-wise, I think red is capping a little bit more quickly. 578 for red, 543 for blue. But this is very close. The helicopter for blue gets taken out. It flies like this somehow. I personally love when they ragdolls like that. Anyway. Yeah, blue's not capping as much or as quickly as red. The only difference being, of course, that AK is going to be on an island and will some point have to invest something to get off that island. Potentially in a dock. As in their investment would be in a dock, not that they would get off the island in a dock. 573 income for blue and 618 for red. And DT is going to build this refinery. It's a super risky refinery, but with how many helicopters are being built, probably necessary. There's even an argument that tanks could be used in this situation. Although tanks, it's a little bit tough because there's so many mountains and forests around, but I mean, the tanks could just drive through this and get over here, potentially. So 3 helicopters are going to the north to help out against this group of infantry. And DT is starting to really build commandos out of this barracks. It'll be a big win if DT can take this entire forest, because it'll add a lot of security to where this refinery is. But 3 SAMs are ripping over. They'll certainly be here for the next time that these helicopters attack. And income's still very close. Second factory now for red. So red is going to be out of factory advantage for a little bit. And another barracks now for AKA. Who is certainly building a lot more producers here. The DT is also building the second factory, but barracks wise, it's only 4 barracks, I guess 5 sort of for blue. Against what's going to be 7 barracks for red. Great run by these infantry of blue to try to get on top of these SAMs. Because the SAMs are really messing with how effective blue's helicopters can be there. The only upside is the helicopters might be able to go down the middle at this point. And DT's got a good number of artillery and enough infantry to block all of red's infantry from jumping on that artillery. So pretty scary army. The only thing it's really missing is some anti-air, but there is 1 SAM to give it a little bit of cover. Because AK still hasn't built their first refinery. But after getting so much value out of these helicopters. But any second now we'll probably hear the refinery go off. And red's going to get these 2 helicopters. There's another refinery back here that AK could build. It'll be interesting to see what... Okay, AK decides to build by the closest refinery. Probably makes it easier to defend against commandos too. This is a little bit tough for blue. Unfortunately, losing this fight in the forest. And income-wise, 708 for red, 653 for blue. Which is probably the widest margin we've seen the incomes be in this game, which is pretty wild and speaks to how close it's been. We can actually take a zoom out and see just how far both players have got. This is DT Assassin's view. The helicopters don't have great vision, so they really only see things when they hover directly over them. But at least there's more commandos on the way for blue to help spot. And AK is going to start repositioning the SAMs. This is a little bit of a push and pull fight in the center of the map. And I haven't really paid much attention to it because it just feels like a static back and forth. It's a lot of artillery pieces for DT Assassin. AK is going to try to pressure the refinery at this point. And if the refinery goes down, this would be a huge deal for how effective these commandos are going to be without the helicopters being able to move around as much. Or for these bombers to be able to start attacking AK's base or armies or whatever they decide to. There is a town now for blue. And these commandos are on top of the SAMs a little bit. They aren't going to get one with the help of those helicopters. And this is a big fight. Blue now has tanks on the field. We'll see how effective they can be. Tanks are great at chasing down packs of SAMs and destroying them. But this is a pretty scary situation, so DT is going to just use the tank to defend the refinery. Of course, it's really imperative that this refinery stays alive because there are also tanks on the field now for blue. Another factory for AK here. So 3 factories for red and 2 factories for blue. And 4 helicopters. I have no idea what that one just did. Just did a sweet jump in midair. And 4 helicopters against 3 SAMs. Helicopters. Great defense by AK, or pardon me, by DT here. But these helicopters are doing great. There's a good concave on this blue artillery line. I'm really not I'm not sure if AK is going to be able to kill this gas. I think so. The SAMs certainly got one of the helicopters. They're going to post up and just start launching rockets at the other one. And still no action of AK getting off that peninsula yet. And yeah, those SAMs get that second helicopter. DT will get a helicopter of their own. Oh, yes they will. I love SAMs. It reminds me of like last hitting in League. I don't know. There's my tidbit for the cast. Blue or red is going to get this refinery. It is going to be destroyed. This is going to get really tough for DT in a second. Tank racing in to try to destroy these mini tanks before they get it. But with the 2 helicopters, even if there's 2 SAMs here for blue, with the help of the infantry, they're just going to get it. SAM's parked out in the forests, in the bushes, and DT's building more barracks in the north. And AK is going to get at least one of these barracks, which is actually huge. And this is potentially the beginning of the end. We can check the economy. 880 for red and 768 for blue. I saw that right. Yeah, at 880. DT's gonna put down another factory. And this is the tough position to be in for blue. There are some bombers. There's another one on the way. One power plant is probably enough to run the bombers in these short ranges. But there's a pretty scary number of SAMs here for AKA. Even though they can't use their machine guns against the bombers, they can use their rockets. A nickname is going to destroy these 3 barracks. And slowly cut off this barracks. And probably begin threatening this town as well. Also, if I ever called either of these players by some other name of another player, I apologize. I watch like a bunch of games back to back sometimes, and I just, you know, mess up. Income wise, 768 for a DT Assassin and 920 for AK Misk. So DT is not out of the game, but I feel it's certainly uphill from here. They'll have to get some great trades. The bombers are doing great on the bottom here. The north is particularly scary with how many commandos AK has up there. And that is more barracks for AK. And AK is keeping these SAMs safe, which is a huge deal. The bombers chipping away at the infantry probably isn't as massive, pardon me, as a deal as it is to win the top of the map. Because then AK knows that they for sure have DT boxed in. Okay, great artillery duel here. Better concave for blue. Slightly. And also blue getting in these forward infantry, which is so big to soak some shots before the artillery for red starts focusing the blue artillery again. And that concave thing I said is, well, no longer true. There's a lot more red guns shooting than blue guns. 4 helicopters with a 5th one showing up in the north. That pretty much secures this for AKA. And earlier when I said that one power plant would be able to run an airport of bombers, or like a few bombers to be short range, that was not true, evidently. There's one remaining barracks up north for DT Assassin. And the SAMs are so close to the airport that the bombers can't really even take off without getting shot by them. And that beep beep we hear is the one power plant not being enough. And slowly red is going to cap back all this territory from blue. And DT is now making about 400 less than AK. Right? I can do 1172, 718, carry the one, 400-ish. Good game. Well played. From both. That might be the final of the tournament, folks. But who knows? There's lots of good players in this, and anyone can win. It's all best of ones until you get to the finals. They're like the grand final game. You can even check. The income was very close until it wasn't, as most Line War games go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. We'll see you around. Thanks for the support. Peace.